Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Indie Comics Talk. I am here with writer Ari Gross. Gross? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Ari Gross.
Perfect. Who was on the channel before to talk about this one. Yeah, I see you got it behind you there. Tales from the Cloakroom, Scott Snyder's group of students from his class putting this one together. Fantastic. It's cool to have it in hand versus before when we talked. It was just a PDF I was looking at. Welcome in.
Thank you. I actually just got my copy today. I was one of the last people to get it. So everyone in our little Discord group was like, "Got mine," and I'm just like, "No waiting.
Where's mine?"
Yeah, but it's all good. It's all
making
here.
it up to Canada took the extra time. Going through customs, all that.
All that fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, welcome in. It's awesome to talk with you again. I know it's been a little bit since that one happened, but now you've got a Kickstarter going on for a book called Awakening.
I do.
Yeah. So let's start out with, I know we did a little bit about yourself before when we had the whole round table of creators. So let's just come back to that, a little bit about yourself and, how you got into comic creating.
Sure. So my name is Ari. Hello again. I've been reading comics as far back as I can remember. I think the earliest comics I had were probably Spider-Man, Batman, sometime in the probably late 80s reading them. I got these Untold Legends of the Batman, which was this series of comics that I'm sure my mom must have got them for me or something like that. But it came with a tape, so you could play the tape and then read the comics, and it would have and I just have this very fond memory of me sitting on my bedroom floor as a kid, listening to the tape. Beep, you turn the page when it does the thing, and that was some of my very early comic memories, which I would guess would just sort of set the tone for the rest of my life in some sense.
Yeah.
But I've been I've been writing comics since the pandemic, pretty much. I got into it fairly early on into the pandemic. It's something I've wanted to do for a very long time. But I had a lot of other I shouldn't start a whole new thing. I should do this other project I want, this other thing I should do this. And then eventually I was like, well, what's stopping me? Nothing's stopping me. I might as well just write a story, see how well it goes. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff for a year, did not have an artist, just wrote, tried to learn how to write a story, write a comic.
Yeah.
And then once that was done, I said to people, hey, I've got a thing. How do I make it? And everyone's like, have you made a comic before? I was like, no, but you have 260 pages that you want to make? I'm like, yeah. Like, okay, well, make 4 pages, make 6 pages, make a single issue, see how it's done first, which of course is completely great and essential advice to anyone who wants to do a big thing is do a small thing and, learn from that. So now I'm actually in the process of doing the big thing as well, which maybe we can talk about a bit after. But I'm here today to talk about Awakening, which is my first physical single one-shot comic, which I'm super excited about. It's a sci-fi story. It's a Star Trek inspired, just a sci-fi one-shot. Very, takes place this ship at the edge of an unexplored galaxy where people encounter a strange anomaly. And right off the bat, the lead navigator, Lieutenant Lau, starts acting quite strange. And the ambiguity through the whole comic, and the question is he what is happening? Is it he's having some interaction with this anomaly, and without giving anything away, it becomes a bit of a tension of, do you buy into, his revelations and Awakening, or do you think that he's just kind of going crazy and you resist it? And so it's one of those, causes a rift amongst the crew, shall we say, to put it mildly.
Yeah. I mean, the previous pages that you got up there on the Kickstarter campaign, definitely you can see that rift kind of opening up at the beginning of, they're like, let's take him to the med bay, or should we take him to the brig?
Yeah.
What should we do with him? And he's just trying to communicate to them something. And that's the part that I know we got to wait for and see later on. But it definitely catches your attention right there of what's going on with him. Where are we going from here?
Thanks. I tried very hard with this one too, because it's a one shot. There, people don't have any background to be. Just throw them right into the action. The first page, just something's happening and you're trying to figure it out, and then it just goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, it I think having that Star Trek influence definitely, like, we see that influence happening here, and so I feel like that can help readers connect in a way that's like, okay, we got the ship here, we got the crew, they're probably doing this, and this. So
Yeah,
I think creating it in that way and that influence brings some familiarity when you
yeah.
enter that world, that you don't feel lost jumping in.
Yeah, thanks. And that is all by design. Aside from the fact that I just wanted to tell a sort of Star Trekky story, and I think this
Yeah.
particular story works very well with science fiction, more so than like you could tell a story like this with fantasy or something else, but sci-fi, like if you read, you'll
Yeah.
see sci-fi just works well for it. And immediately like, oh, the tough security officer with the horns. She's this kind of character. The one who's like the med bay. They're probably more this kind of character. So
Yeah.
it's playing into the tropes to help move people along without doing too much hand holding,
Yeah.
and that will become something which we'll get discussed later in the story, is like just the nature of people and the tropes they embody, and their interactions with each other. Again, I'm trying to say stuff without saying stuff. It's
Oh yeah, yeah. No spoilers right now, because I mean, we want people to go check out the comic and back it so they can read it later. If they hear the whole plot right now, they probably will not go over there and back it. They'll be like, all right, I read it.
like good check, yeah.
I heard it over here. But yeah, no, it looks great. I know I dropped the link to your website earlier in the live chat, so people can go check that out, because you have a lot of like short stories that you've done. One, of course, was in the Tales from the Cloakroom. Chosen was that one. But you did like a webtoon comic that you released on Twitter also, if I'm remembering correctly, or was it only through
So
webtoon?
there's a couple things. I did a webtoon, a one-shot standalone webtoon. Webtoon had a, what was it called? The call to action
Yeah.
thing that I think it was about a year ago. I think it was last March or something. And I've always wanted to write a manga. I've always wanted to do like a big action scene. And so this is this very sports sort of oriented action thing. It's like the premise is it's basically like a one-on-one, almost like death match for people who are dealing with like binational arbitration, like negotiations.
Yeah.
It's like taking the ridiculousness of the like this like very detailed trade negotiation and being like, well, what happens if people can't decide what to do at the end of the day? Just stick two people in a room with as many weapons as they can carry into a briefcase and let them go at each other until they work something out.
Yeah,
Which was fun.
I remember reading through it sometime after you were on, when we were doing the interview for Tales from the Cloakroom, and I was just like, just some of the stuff in it, I was just like, this is hilarious. Like Canada versus the USA, and like just like all of it was just, I don't want to like scroll too far into it, but like it was
Scroll as far as you
fantastic.
want. It's all mine, but
I know.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I was really enjoying it. I was like, okay, this is not at all what I expected to find ever in a comic.
No, which one thing I've been pretty explicit about, at least with myself, is if I'm writing comics for myself as opposed to, let's say, for somebody else, I want to write something that like no one has done, something that is just completely new, or a different spin on something. So you got a standard sort of sports style, fight comic, but the setup is completely different. Like the whole thing is, and the logic of the trade negotiation holds as like the whole thing goes through. Like I never really spell it out, but it's all like the rules are there.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of little sort of Easter eggs, a lot of like little Canadian references. There's the cast of Letterkenny, which is a well-known Canadian TV show, well known in certain parts, shows up. So I had a lot of fun with that, just throwing whatever in there. A lot of like cutaways to the crowd, because I figured you want a lot of the dynamics for a sporting match. It's going to be between these two people, but unless they're doing the manga thing where they're all saying everything in their head, what's happening, you need people reacting to it. So here's the cutaway to a bar,
and they're watching on the TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it was one of those like you said, you're trying to do the small things first, right? You got the mini stories, short stories in like anthologies, and then you've got this like one shot manga webtoon, which was great. And now you've got the one shot larger format. We got a comic, and then building to the future. So I think that's great. Like you said, building those steps up to take it to the next level of writing.
Yeah, and every step has been super informative. I mean, one of the interesting things about working in webtoon is you just realize that the different medium affords different things and limits different things. You don't have to worry about. I actually wrote this initially, the final arbitration, the webtoon, as a 10-page like comic, and it was so cramped. Like there was no way it was going to be a 10-page comic. And eventually, just doing it in the webtoon, I didn't have to worry about like structuring the pages. It sort of made it freed it up a lot to take take some more time with certain moments and stuff like that. I mean, I should have made it a 20-page regular comic. But, what actually I'm doing with that now, very slowly, is I'm taking it and I'm turning it into a manga where it's like 1, 2, 3 panels per page, and I'm going to have it as a printable manga, but that requires a lot of effort on my part. It's like
arranging things to match how that would work. Yeah, no, that's cool.
It's labor of love, but I've got a lot of labor of loves at the moment. So
yeah. So your background, you've got a lot of collected editions of comics back there. I know you said you've been reading for a long time there. Anything in there that more recently you're drawing inspiration from to create?
I'm thinking if there's something that I've been really drawing. You know what? I don't have the physical edition of this stuff. So I've been reading a lot of like everyone, stuff by Tynion. And a lot of his stuff has been influencing. So I've started writing. I've got 2 main series, which I'm going to, which are going to be like my 2 ongoing, at least that I've planned. One is called Wardens. It takes place in the 1920s in a immigrant neighborhood in Toronto, primarily inhabited by Jewish, Italian, Black, Chinese, Irish to an extent. And so it focuses on it's a supernatural sort of crime story. Supernatural crime elements, a little bit of like almost like superheroes, but no sort of masks or disguises. It's kind of people who have to sort of come together from different different ethnic backgrounds and sort of different walks of life to deal with a shared or a couple shared sort of stuff, and there they become a team and go on and deal with more supernatural shenanigans. Well, in the background, it's very much about all the class issues, that not just class issues like class, labor, racism, sexism, like all the real world issues just amplified in a, because it's the 20s, like, it's even more explicit than it is in, let's say, modern day Toronto, where the issues are, more subtle, like the racism is, more of a structural racism rather than just like outright straight up, which is,
it's not the in-your-face racism. It's they're like, we're not racist, but let's put these policies in place that work against them.
Right. Yeah. And so I've been really influenced a lot by people like Will Eisner and like some of I wanted to have like an energy of like the old style, like 1940s, like the spirits and that kind of feel. Will Eisner, of course, is tremendously influential in my writing. I'm Jewish, and Will Eisner has written possibly one of my favorite, just like treatises on the nature of Judaism at all, like a Contract with God, which is phenomenal. It's it's like the first graphic novel, or often claimed to be the first graphic novel. It's a genre-defining work, and I say a lot of that has come into this. And the other series I mentioned, which is why I was mentioning Tiny before, is a series called it's called Upkeep. I don't quite have an artist yet for it. I'm halfway through issue 3, so I've been like doing a bit, trying to like understand it really well before going back and also like I've got so much other stuff going on that I've been like one at
your
a time.
brain's like trying to do all these different things.
Yeah, but I at the end of the day, even if I'm doing other stuff, I still try to make time to just write the primary work, just because if you're not writing, then what are you doing as a writer, I guess.
Yeah.
And that deals with it's a contemporary story. It deals with the issues of like it starts with like the issues like finding housing in Toronto. It's the young couple with a kid sort of kind of where I was about 10 years ago with my wife and our kid, trying to find a place to live, realizing they're
Yeah.
going to get priced out of the market. When they fall into this, this like almost amazing, too good like to be true, like mythical house that will give them anything they want. It appears only if they want to go there. There's some geographical determinants about it. It's along Garrison Creek, which is an old river in Toronto that's been boarded over. So there's got deals with the history of it. But the house requires certain upkeep, which it brings in the horror side without going too much. It's
So
kind of like
drawing
give them anything they
inspiration
want
from
first.
Nice House on the Lake.
Yeah, so it's a bit of like Nice House on the Lake. I was reading that when this, it's obviously not the same story at all, but the superficial house that gives anything you want, or an ideal scenario that's also kind of terrifying.
The aspect of you, everything you need is provided for, and then there's horror elements clearly in Nice House on the Lake. Just a different kind of horror, end of the world horror.
Right. Yeah. It's ambiguous, apocalyptic. Where this is more, even though I'm still trying to keep the question of like what is the origin of the house, like that's not answered very quickly, and I don't even know if I'm going to answer it in the main series. I may have like a one-shot spinoff or something that tells it, but like the people who live in there, they don't really understand it either, which adds to the and I wanted to tell a story too where this family, they move in very early, the kid's like 1, and every issue is 1 year later or within the next year. So it's like year 1, year 2. And so you see a story of people growing in a house, a family growing, the birth of their second child, which gets into like, birth horror, which is like a whole, the terrors of childbirth and, finding the mundane things of like, need to find daycare situation, like stuff like that, but like amped up through this, through this particular, like, a little comedic, but also like, a little scary, and also just deals with how far are you willing to go for the things that you care about,
Yeah, different filter on that story.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been having a blast writing these. The hardest part I find is actually finding the right artist, because there's so many good artists, but finding someone who's going to do, first of all, interested in doing an ongoing series and available at a price that's like within my pricing. Like I'm not going to like call up like Dan. I don't know what Dan Moore was charging, but like obviously like I would be able to afford it. I mean, I would, I guess,
out of most people's price range.
Yeah, I would find a way if he said.
But, right. If he was like, "Hey, I heard you were coming up with this awesome idea, and I want to be your artist," and it's like, I will take a loan out to get Dan Moore.
We will make this work. I don't know how, but we will. Yeah.
Let me get this loan real quick from the bank, and
they're like, "What do you need this money for?" I'm like, "Well, it's Dan Moore." Here you go. Yeah.
It's a business investment.
Yeah. So, and the other part of finding the artist is finding someone whose style is right, which was the hardest thing for Wardens, because I wanted to be sort of almost like a bit of an old-fashioned, a throwback, more cartoony style, where this would be a much more modern, grittier, and there's actually more people in the style that I would be doing upkeep for than Wardens. And actually, speaking about finding artists, I was amazed that I found the artist I did for Awakening, who I really loved his the line work, and he loved Star Trek as well, so he had a feel on things right away.
Yeah.
The cover is by Fellhound. Which I was extremely happy with.
It fell on the channel last month.
Oh, you did? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, because she's got "And We Love You" coming out soon from Scout.
That's right. Yeah, she managed to get with Scout, which is phenomenal for her. I think they picked up the Commander Rao on the second printing, which I had
done Commander Rao. Was that like a year ago? Maybe now, 2 years,
something like that. It was
somewhere in there.
At least over a year ago, for sure.
Yeah, and then picked up "And We Love You," which I think got delayed. I think I saw Fell post that recently. But anyways, great cover that she did there.
Yeah, I did the logo. That took me a while to figure it out how I was going to do it. It was just like, I want an eye in space or something, and then like, man, it takes a lot of work to like actually get something to like. It took a lot of tries to make it good but simple. it's easy to like try to over design something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see where that background piece comes from. The world back there.
That's right. Yeah, that's
Or
from the spread. Yeah.
The anomaly.
The anomaly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is it's a great depiction of what, like you said, clearly Star Trek inspired ship, where people just kind of jump in and are like, oh, all right, I know that's the captain.
Yeah.
Immediately, it's in the center of the ship.
Yeah.
You're like at home if you're a sci-fi fan.
That's right. He's got the cat. He's got the sash. He's got the hat. You know.
Yeah.
We had a big discussion over whether or not he should have a hat, because I felt a hat was really kind of important. But there was like, why does he need the hat? Like, they're in a ship. It doesn't need a hat. And I was like, oh, it looks good though.
I did see you post today. Like, I didn't name the captain, so they want to give him a name. Let's get some names out there.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Anyone who backs this at the end of the campaign, one of the questions is gonna be submit a name for the captain, and that will go on the trading cards. So I don't think I mentioned this yet, but it should be on at least on the updates, if not on the main page. If you just click there.
Oh, the updates.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I did that earlier today. Did I? Yes, I did.
First
so I made 8 trading cards for this. 6 for the 6 characters, I guess the ones you see on the cover, and 2 for 2 characters from Chosen, because I'm including this with a Chosen as the backup. It goes well with it. When you'll read it, you'll get it. You'll see why it's there. Chosen, if for those of you who didn't catch it, that's the comic I had from Tales from the Cloakroom. It's a 6-page sort of Green Lantern inspired story. Again, sci-fi. I seem to gravitate towards sci-fi.
Yeah,
the art on Chosen is great. I really love how it looks, and I'm really happy to this one as well. So we're gonna have 8 trading cards, and it was just a super fun opportunity to just do just a little bit of a little creative writing, just like write a thing for anyone. It doesn't even have to relate that closely to the story, but I spent a good portion of my childhood collecting those like Marvel series trading cards, and DC as well. But like, do I have it here? Oh geez, yeah, right here. I have a binder of these yeah, this is me peak nerd as a kid, just like spending all this time just like doing these things. So
I had that for like Pokemon. I did not get into like the Marvel DC cards or anything, but I also I got into comics way later, like actual comics versus I love Spider-Man and Batman as a kid, but did not read comics.
Yeah,
took me longer to get there.
Yeah, I'm like maybe 3 to 5 years like older than like the Pokemon thing, where like it blew up. Like my kids are into Pokemon because Pokemon cards are still a major thing.
Yeah, I mean it came back more recently. I feel like there was like a big off period where it was like, yeah, Pokemon games were coming out and we knew there were cards, but it wasn't like a big like, let's go get those Pokemon cards. Yeah. They're selling out real quick. And now, of course, with collectors out there, it's they disappear real quick too.
Things do, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, with art team selection and everything, how did you approach coming into this one any differently than you did for the short story in Tales from the Cloakroom?
I approached the art team a little bit differently because I was a little freer to take my time. Where Tales from the Cloakroom, there was a bit of a time, not a time crunch, but it was like, defined like, we're doing a thing for now, we're doing this. I found someone who I actually was working with earlier, but then after a couple pages, I couldn't deal with his style, and I was like, this art, I don't like it. It's not good for the story. So I actually dropped the person. I said, that's it. I'm sorry, it's not working out. I have to go with what's best for the comic, and I went with somebody else.
Okay.
And so it was also a good exercise in learning, like, some quickly on, like, if something's not working, to know when it's like, when you can string it along and when you should just be like, nope, this isn't working. he's not the right artist for the story. I need to find someone else, which I did for that. But this one, I took the time. I found the right person. So I was like, right off the bat, I was like, good. I don't have to like worry. And Greg Warrenchuk, he's out of Ottawa as well, so a fellow Canadian, and he is just like the nicest, most timely, hardworking. Like I was like, because I can be pretty picky. I'm like, Greg, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you make this change? Make the change? He's like, yeah, no problem, no problem, no problem. Like I don't want to say that he'll just do anything, but like we had a very good working relationship, and that that was like a huge like that made it fun. You know what I mean? It wasn't like trying to pulling teeth just to get someone to be like, you just make this one little alteration. Like,
and I feel like comic creation should be fun, right? Should be able to like show in the story that you're enjoying creating it versus like, God, I had to get my artist to change these little details because they weren't what I wanted and he didn't want to do it. But I feel like this story, at least from what I can see, looks like you guys were enjoying putting this together.
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of fun with it. And as you mentioned before, I just want to say, so anyone who backs, because I didn't finish the thought previously, anyone who backs this campaign, at the end of it, we'll submit a thing for naming the captain. And you might get a couple extra trading cards or something in your in your order. I haven't really figured out the specific reward for that, but if nothing else, you will be credited as the captain namer.
Captain Cappy Head.
Cappy Head. I came up with a lot of bad names too, so
that's the first draft. Captain Cappy Head.
Usually I'm really good with names, but for some reason none of them stuck, and it just no one ever calls him by his name. They just Captain. So I'm like, okay, so that's it. And I was like, what? Let's make this a fun interactive thing afterwards. So when I do put on the trading card for the captain, it'll just say the captain, but all that will be changed for final production.
So proposal here: what if he is like the doctor, and he's just the captain?
He could just be the captain.
He could just be the captain.
At this point, that's what he is.
So nobody submit any names, so he can just be the captain. No, I'm kidding.
That's right. Yeah.
Submit names.
It's just extremely simple for me, so I don't have to change one or maybe two lines of text. Yeah.
Right.
I'm a trading card that has nothing to do with the actual
it doesn't change any dialogue in the thing. It's just on the card he'll be named. No, that's kind of funny thinking about that. But yeah, so one shot. Do you plan to do anything else, in this world, or you kind of feel like this tells the story that you want to tell, and you're like, I'm done?
It told the story I wanted to tell pretty succinctly. Never say never. Right. I did the thing for everything I write. It's another thing that you could use if you ever want to. I could tell a different story in the sort of Star Trek world or not. I could choose to do whatever. But this story was pretty self-contained sometimes some stories come to you with you just have an idea and you have to work it out. This one, I pretty much had the whole thing from start to finish, like the broad strokes, like from the beginning. I was like, this is what I want to do. I just have to figure out the details of it. And the setting, which is where all the Star Trek stuff comes in. So, nothing planned now, but always happy to bring things back.
Yeah. I feel like that's what's cool about the creation of things. It's like I can tell the story I want, and then I've made this world. This world exists. There could be other stories in this world to tell, but not right now.
And if you want to tell them someday, you can. It's someone else wants to tell them, they could. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be clamoring to grab my IP of the Confederation for their own Star Trek story. You can make up your own
thing. Make their own Star Trek world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else could do their own thing, but it's sharing the language of it, the visual language, the tropes that, if nothing else, it's really fun. And Star Trek used to be one of those shows, I believe, up until I think it was even as of DS9 or maybe where people used to be able to submit scripts to, like an average person off the street. Like a writer, whomever. You didn't have to be a name. You could send it in to, I guess, CBS, Paramount, or whatever, and they would review it. And that's no longer the case. It hasn't been the case for probably 20 years, maybe 30 years or something. But I do like the idea that anyone can sort of like, I've got a pitch for a thing, like that plays with your world, and at the time, television was, I guess, loose enough that for this particular property, they would entertain ideas and take some people's, and they didn't always make them, but they often read them and then sometimes took them on for other stuff. So it's got a bit of a history of not just being this sort of like super guarded thing where, it's got a bit of history of letting people in, which sort of, jives very well with the utopian sort of Star Trek. Everyone lives up to their potential in the future in a, in a non-scarcity or a post-scarcity world or whatever,
Yeah. No, I mean, I like that. It's kind of, I get why nowadays that's not quite a thing, but that's cool that that used to be a thing.
Yeah, it was neat that it happened. Yeah.
I feel like they're now overprotective of the intellectual properties, and like it's like we have to tell the story we want to tell here and stay away.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, well, back in the time of the golden age of Star Trek there. Oh. So what other sci-fi things, you seem to be on a sci-fi kick a little bit with recent things. I know upcoming we've got other stuff, different genres, but what other sci-fi things do you pull inspiration from, enjoy consuming on the reading side or viewing?
So I guess, is this sci-fi? I don't know. Is Black Hammer sci-fi? Maybe. It's superheroes. Yeah. I've been reading a lot of, I do the thing where I just go to the library. So Toronto has one of the best library systems, public library systems in the world. Like it's just, objectively by the numbers, it's just phenomenal. The comics is really good, which is amazing because I have many comics behind me, but this is, a fraction of the comics that I've read because I'm an obsessive comic reader.
Yeah.
So
I need to probably borrow more and save space.
Yeah, that's definitely. Once you start doing the numbers, you're like, okay, yeah. So I've been reading a lot of Jeff Lemire stuff recently, and I mean, I wouldn't say he is a sci-fi writer sort of at heart per se, in the same, like I would say that like Rick Remender is a sci-fi writer, like if you were to like broadly categorize people as one kind of thing, in the way that I would say Scott Snyder is a horror writer or Tom King is a crime writer. Like if you just had to like pick one genre that fits the most with what they do.
Yeah.
So I recently read Low, which I really enjoyed, which is actually making my computer high. I've got the two hardcover editions of Low that I bought from the colorist, in person at a Toronto Comic Arts Fest last year.
Nice.
They're very, large doubles and murder weapon kind of books.
Propping it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was Image Comics.
Yeah, they're Image books.
Yeah, so the Image hardcovers are fantastic. I started getting some of those. I've probably got too many of them now. I'm looking at like several of them that I'm just like, this is how I'm going to read this story that I didn't read when it was coming out. Deadly Class, I picked up one of those and I haven't read it yet, but it's like in that to read pile soon. Yeah,
Deadly Class is fun. I'm not quite caught up with it. I'm again taken out from the library whenever it comes. I'm probably like one or two trades behind, but it's also, I guess that's also Rick Remender, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So one day I'll get to that.
Yeah, you're seeing the part of the bookshelf that is not the embarrassing stuff that I haven't read yet.
These are the have reads. Okay.
Yeah, except this corner, which is mostly have not read. Actually, the other stuff is have read too.
This is I'd say that is read, that read. Those two up there are not read. Those are single issues that have been read. And then there's some stuff back here that's a mix.
Nice.
That was just like the really tall books that did not fit on other shelves.
Right, yeah.
So it's a mix of read and not read. And then there's a whole slew of stuff I've got lined up to read on another bookshelf.
Right, yeah.
Like planning it out.
Lots of my floater unread books tend to just drift around the house. My kids also get their hands on everything and read it, like everything. And their
Yes.
favorite books are my son's 7, and his absolute favorite book is, I think it's I Hate Fairyland, I would say,
Okay.
which is like not written for a 7-year-old exactly,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
been his favorite book probably since he was 4. Supplanting, I don't know, was it like the Infinity Gauntlet and like Birth of Venom, which he used to like sleep with when he was 2.
So
Basically in a crib with these like 90s Marvel comics, like
you've got an advanced comic reader there, then.
yeah, and it's really funny because my son doesn't care about and any, he's like, I'll read anything. My daughter's
Yeah.
like, this isn't really appropriate for kids, like she has a bit of a sensitivity to it. And so they'll like, if a comic contains a lot of swearing words, they'll be just like, I read the words, but I don't say them, Daddy. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. I didn't say the pro.
That would be real bad if that was his favorite.
Yeah, just between the pro and Sunstone or something,
yeah. Can't decide. He just really loves these really vulgar, graphic comics.
And then there's and that's the thing too. It's like the comics that I read and take out and are not always, often they overlap with stuff that I'll buy or I'll buy later, or I'll be like, this is great, I'll pick it up, I get a chance. But there's also like a bunch of comics that I don't just necessarily need a physical version of, I think Uber's a great comic. I don't necessarily need my kids being like reading Uber, like at this, like the Kieran Gillen story, or like I said, Sunstone or something, like, oh, this, beautiful like romantic story about, like just BDSM. Like they'll, you can read eventually, but like you're 7 and 10, so give that a couple.
No, there's some that's just like, I don't necessarily need this around because if my kid reads this, nope, definitely not.
Just a little much, yeah.
She Bites was great. That was a book coming from Scout Comics.
I haven't
probably not great for kids in terms of, you had like a really old vampire who was in the body of like a 10-year-old.
Okay.
Like that's when she got turned into a vampire. She's like 100-something years old though.
Like let the right one in, sort of like creepy child vampire, way older than it looks kind of thing.
Yeah, she needed a babysitter because she wanted to like get alcohol and cigarettes and like adult things that she couldn't do by her own and didn't want to be harassed by people. And so, so she found a babysitter who is someone who was just trying to make enough money to go to, I think it was Ireland, to like jump off a cliff and commit suicide.
Okay. Excessive mower? Just a guess?
Maybe. I can't remember, but probably. But yeah, it was, I enjoyed it. There was a lot of like, the last issue had like a good, it was a very good line. I don't remember because I am terrible about remembering lines from things, but like the end part where it was just like this message about valuing your life. And I think it, like, by the end, the person was not wanting to necessarily go kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also like with this vampire who's like feeding off of bad people and doing all this kind of stuff. It's like, they're okay if something happens because of that, but they're not actively ready to go kill themselves anymore by the end, which is, there's a beautiful message behind it.
So it's a completed series, or is it
it's 3 issues. I think they're gonna do more with it. I think it was Hedwig Hale was the writer.
Okay.
I don't remember the artist, but yeah, it was I thought it was great. That sentence is towards the end. One of like maybe 3 pages to the end, or 4 pages. But
I'll go check it out for sure.
Yeah. So that's a different supernatural kind of thing.
I read the first volume of Little Monsters by again Jeff Lemire and Justin Nguyen.
That was good.
Child vampires. I just like cruised through it, and now I need to read the next one.
Yeah, that one I was reading single issues for the first volume, and I decided I'm gonna go trade from now on.
It's a very fast read. I found, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Hernandez is the artist. But yeah, no, that was really really fantastic read. Lemire is becoming like, I haven't read a lot of Lemire stuff. I haven't read any Black Hammer, but like he's becoming up there in my favorites.
I picked this up for like $30 or something at the bookstore a while, like one of those library editions that they're selling for like
nice,
you know, like a ridiculously like.
I saw them on Amazon. I need to like pay attention when Amazon does one of those like buy two get one free kind of things with the like hardcover books, because I've had them in my cart and I just didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah,
but yeah, if I get the Black Hammer library editions,
if you get a chance, it's a good way to read it. It looks really really good, and it's nice and big, you know, kind of like how it is.
Yeah, so that's like on my to-do list, reading some more Lemire. But I'm enjoying his like horror universe that they're starting right now, the Bone Orchard mythos.
Yeah, I haven't read that yet, but I've heard nothing but good things. Like, mostly hearing good things about him anyway. So.
Collected edition of the series that they're putting out, 10,000 Black Feathers, is coming pretty soon.
Cool, nice.
Yeah. There was one thing I want to point out on your creative team was one of your co-creators on Tales from the Cloakroom is your letterer and editor on this, Aubrey.
Yeah, Aubrey is basically my editor for everything at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a really good working relationship. She's great. She's just really smart, and she is kind of what you need in an editor. She's the person who will catch the things that you don't and make things better and offer very useful and helpful suggestions. And she's since she's starting to do lettering. I don't know if this is the first thing. I don't think it's the first thing she's lettered, but this is one of the earlier things that she's lettered.
Okay. I think I just saw her post something about, or repost something about a lettering course or something that was going on.
Yeah, she is the most engaged in courses of anyone in comics that I know, right? Like the indie comic scene. She is very, like, just actively learning in a way that like I find personally embarrassing. I'm not doing.
I mean, we all have our like time constraints and limits on all of it.
And she's doing a thing on colors as well. So she's learning.
Oh, geez.
She sent
something like, I'm doing everything.
Yeah, she's like, I flatted this page, and I was like, yeah, when? Like,
right.
Between
next thing you know, she's going to be doing an art class too, and then she's going to write, draw, color, and letter and edit her own stuff all on her own.
Yeah, that's right. Quadruple threat. Yeah.
Gonna do a Cliff Chang, the Catwoman story that he did.
Lonely City.
Lonely City. Yeah.
Oh, that looks so good.
Someone needs to back this to get this over 600, because like that, you know.
That's right.
Right there.
Right now, just back it. There you go. Make it over 600.
Even just throw $1 at it, just so we can hit 600. Just really bothering me
that's not the number I see, because I see everything, because I'm in Canada and you have to put it in the host currency of your country.
Oh, so that's fair. That's fair. So maybe $2. Or wait, actually $1 American would put it
more. Yeah,
600 American, but $1 Canada wouldn't put it $1 American. So $2, just to be sure.
Just to be sure. Yeah. I mean, I didn't set a super high bar for the Kickstarter. I figured this is my first Kickstarter. Let's make something achievable, but not, you know, so low that I'll lose money every issue I print. You know, it covers the cost of production and some of the cost of art, but not all the cost of the art, because the art is good. If you want to cover the cost of art, you know, you are asking much more.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in the end in terms of all that. But I think it's around, it was like 43% or something on the way there. So it's trucking along. And I'm on I don't know, 9 podcasts or something. So I'll be talking about it and staring at this page for the next month, regardless of what anyone else is going to do. So
yeah. And did you do less than 30 days on it?
Yeah, I did 25 days. I started on my daughter's birthday and then on my birthday. When I turned 40. So I was like, I'm just gonna like give myself a birthday present and not have this afterwards.
That's That's fair. That's fair. I would say it's a big Kickstarter month going on too.
It is, yeah. I didn't pick the. I'm not alone, so I do appreciate that. But we'll see. Yep.
Yeah. So just to show everyone what they can pick up, get the digital copy, physical and digital. Some postcards in here.
Yeah, so that's a postcard with a I call it like the beach day scene, and it's got some information in the back, which is from someone to someone, and you'll see it when you get it. Not giving that away quite yet, although I have written it. And we're also going to be as you go down there, we've got stickers, that was really fun just designing them. That little one is the golden one is the logo for the Confederation, which is never quite drawn the same way twice, but that's fine too.
Yeah, then I see the guy from Chosen there.
Yeah, and that's the other logo in red. That's from the Bright Star Alliance, the organization that he joins and Chosen.
And then your logo there.
That's right.
That you're wearing right now.
I have.
Yep. Nice. And then if anyone wants sketches or original art from the comic, that's on here too.
Yep. And if as part of a stretch goals, if it floats a little above and whatever is 2,000 or something like that, I'll probably include some. I'll probably print out some trading cards and put those in as well, since I didn't list those. Those are just sort of digital right now.
Yeah.
And we also might include some extra blank postcards, so you can send them to people who will be shocked that they received your postcard.
Yeah, I saw that in the add-ons. You can add on the blank postcard if you want to have extras. You can get those. I also do appreciate this showing, hey, it's going to be bagged, it's going to be boarded, it's going to be shipped in a Gemini mailer.
Yep.
Because sometimes, especially recently, I've been getting a lot of Kickstarters that weren't bagged, weren't boarded, weren't in a Gemini, and I'm like, what is happening here?
It's a pretty low bar to ship your comic in a way that won't destroy it.
Yeah,
you should do it.
I'm like, that's the very standard that I not necessarily expect, but I've come to expect because other people doing it in Kickstarters, and I feel like it shows the care about the quality that they put out.
Yeah, I spent all this time making a thing that looks good. You don't want to get it and it looks bad. Yeah,
and comic out by June at the latest if the shit buffer's needed.
Yeah. I may give myself a few days after February to not immediately run and print it, but one thing I am doing is I'm printing it locally. I found a place just in Toronto that will do everything. They'll do just literally the stickers, the book, the whatever. So I'm like, that's great. So I can just go there, do everything. I don't have to worry so much about if there's an issue, I have to send it back to some place in a different, I found someone local and I'm super, super happy about that because I priced it out and it's about the same amount as other people who do it more not more professionally, but more from elsewhere. And I've been looking at them. Everyone's like, they're great. I was like, yeah, but they're an hour and a half away. If I have an issue, I might have to actually send some stuff back instead of just getting on the streetcar and 25 minutes later.
It's good to have that local option because I know a lot of people, especially in America, a lot of people actually will go to Canada to get their printing, or they'll go overseas to get their printing. There's a couple places in Florida, I think, that do printing as well. But not everyone has such a local option for them. So
I wasn't expecting it, and I was happy to find it.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing also about indie comics is that you get to really find that quality that you want and the price point that you want to put out that stuff for people.
Yeah, the price point was a very difficult thing to gauge because you have to also take into account shipping. And I've done a bit of research on it. And the price point for indie comics is much higher than, of course, for a standard big two comic. Someone's going to charge you you might pay, let's say, $10 for or $15 for an indie comic, but you won't pay $10 for Batman issue 1047 or whatever, like some random
Right.
thing, because it's it's an understanding. It's a niche thing. It's essentially it's like as close to like a handcrafted product as you're gonna get, with very low, low numbers being made, and I'd say low margins, but that would assume that there's like actually making money on it. So I don't even know if it's a low margin. Yeah, I'm sure it's a negative margin when it comes down to it, but
I feel like
comics down. We'll see if that improves.
most of the creators I've talked to that are doing Kickstarter comics, a lot of times it's like, I want enough money to fund this, and maybe if I get more, I can start funding my next one.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't care if this is paying my bills. I want it to pay the artist costs for the next project, or start their costs, so we can keep that one going and keep the momentum going into the next project.
Keep the ball rolling, get one to pay for the other, and just keep going forward. I mean, I'm extremely fortunate that I'm, like I have a day job. I'm not like scraping by.
Right.
So like, but I do know people who are, and it's like comics is hard if you don't have an income that's not drawing or something like that, and like especially if you're starting out, if you're not an established artist, it takes you a while to get up there. As a writer, like I don't know how writers do it, like at this point, like I write every night. Like I write a little bit during the day if I can, but like I have stuff to do. I have 2 kids. I have a job. I have a house. I got a whole wall of comics,
Right. You've got other responsibilities to take care of. Plus you want to relax and read sometimes, and then out there you still gotta fit that time in to write. You noticed with all that you've been reading less as you've started to write more?
It's funny. I read almost no novels anymore. I do listen to audiobooks when I can, but I've read almost all. This has actually happened since I had kids. Is why I basically stopped reading prose novels, because comics are just faster, and if you need to like do a kid thing and help a kid out, you can like immediately put it down. It's easy to put down and pick up. I mean, I guess you could do it with novels too. It just takes longer. It's a mental sort of shift.
Audiobook, you can just pause.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I still try to make time to watch, some TV shows, but I'm very guarded in the ones that, like, it used to be like, oh, I'll just watch whatever, but now I won't just watch whatever. Like it has to be like mentally signed off, because if I'm not doing that, I could be doing something else,
Right.
I still play video games.
I have this that I want to write, so you're gonna be passed on.
Yeah, and I have a huge backlog of video games. I want to watch The Last of Us, but I still haven't finished The Last of Us, despite the fact that the game is like how many years old? Like I'm like right near the end. I just need to sit and do it. For like 3 hours. It's probably all I need. But
yeah, I have not played it at all, but I am really enjoying the series. It's so well done.
I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. Not that like you need to finish the game to like see it. It was just sort of like the characters are like this way in my mind, and I kind of want to like see their story before I like start that again.
Yeah, I can see that. I was gonna say that where they're at right now clearly is not near the end of the game, I would assume, but
I might just even watch episode 3 just because everyone has been raving about it.
Yeah,
and it's so funny. I mean, my wife was just like, so why is Nick Offerman in This Is Us? Like, everyone talks about the show being emotionally manipulative, and I'm like, I think you're getting shows confused. That's not This Is Us. It's like this is
The Last of Us.
Yeah, but I had a little bit of explaining earlier today. I was like, that's just not the same thing.
I was like, is that Nick Offerman? Is that really Nick?
Yeah.
What are you doing over here? And he just nailed it. Like, such an emotional performance.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching again this episode in particular. The character is a strong character in the game, and apparently people made it even better or changed it, which is great, because I don't think, especially for any adaptation, I do think there should be some changes to, especially to make it fit the medium.
Especially from video game.
Oh yeah, it's the
to
stuff
that.
is it interesting in video games is not usually the stuff that is most interesting in television. Video games have a, they have a like a reward gameplay loop essentially, where you do a thing, you get better at it, then you do that thing again. That doesn't happen in TV. And so you need, you can't fit in a reward gameplay loop into the history of, the backstory of Bill and I forget his partner's husband. What is his name? Frank. That's it. Yeah. And that's just not the way the game's set up. But TV, you can be like, yeah, we're doing this.
Yeah. There's no mining for resources and trying to collect all these things and build up your skills. It's happening. They're learning along the way. You see their growth starting to happen. So it'd be interesting how it comes out. I've probably down the line will play it, but me and video games, I do not get to spend any time on them recently. So it'll happen one day.
Yeah.
I used to get lost in games like Civilization and just like you start a game with Civilization and suddenly it's a week later.
It's literally like, that was, I've never played any Civilization past Civ 2 because Civ 2 would literally, every time I played it, I would stop at 5:30 in the morning because the sun was coming up. It's literally the one more turn thing. I was like, and I just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I decided at a point, I was like, I have to do something else other than just play this.
I think that I just should not buy another Civilization game for that reason. I have Civ 5 and Civ 6. And I think I've ended up with some other Civ-like games because I was just enjoying those. But that's a dangerous rabbit hole to go down.
Oh, man. I was at my cousin's place last weekend, and he has, what's it called? Hearts of Iron, which is a grand strategy game, sort of a World War II sort of, I guess, simulator, super detailed, super involved. It's the kind of thing where you can just get into it and then spend, 100 hours doing it. And it will keep you doing it. Yeah. The only game I've recently spent that amount of time, I guess there's Hades, which is excellent, and Cuphead. I played a lot of Cuphead. My kids also play some Cuphead. They're not as good because they don't have 30 plus years of platforming. Yeah, I was like, you're really good at this. I was like, I learned on Mega Man. Failure teaches you, just decades of.
I've been doing this for quite a while. You guys don't have the experience.
Yeah, they'll get there. They're actually pretty good. It's neat seeing kids who are just growing up playing video games because my parents, video games was an alien, strange thing to them. They were like, he does this, but I don't know why he's doing it. Yeah, and I don't get it. Where for me, I'm like, I understand it and I get it, and I can see I can see when they get it, which is rewarding.
Yeah, there's some of those I'm like, games I haven't played in years, and you think back and I'm like, how was I good at this game? The skills involved and the coordination, you're just like, I've lost that. For me, on certain things, I'm like, what was I doing back then that I could do this so well? It's a mystery now.
It's a mystery. My wife can't play. She used to play Counter-Strike, I guess, back in the early 2000s, and first-person stuff. But now, she gets dizzy every time, if she's watching a first-person shooter because you're moving around, she's like, I gotta go drink some water and sit down,
Yeah, but you're an expert at the game growing up, and it's I'm probably not good at first-person shooters.
That was never my thing. Although I did play some, but it was never my.
I like them, but I'm not good at them. Yeah. So come back to the Kickstarter one more time before we wrap up. Anything else with it that you want to talk about? Inspiration for it, or any, I don't know, selling points on it that you want to throw out there for the listeners?
I think so. It comes, as I mentioned, it comes with the main story, Awakening. I included as a backup story. It also has a page that'll have all the trading cards. There are 2 pages, I guess, that'll have them too. So I'm going to include them there. It's fun. I mean, I don't want to tell you more about it because I just want you to read it at this point. It's if you like Star Trek, if you like, there you go, right there, yeah. If you like Star Trek, if you like science fiction, if you like stories that'll make you think, if you like stories that at the end of it you'll be like, huh, okay, like that's what I'm going for here. Everything I write, I try to have layers and depth to it. So it's got a bit of humor as it goes along. It's not as funny as the funniest stuff I've written because I didn't want it just to be just jokes, but I have a bit of stuff in there that's kind of funny. No, I won't tell you.
I always appreciate, even a story that doesn't need humor, right? It's interesting on its own. I appreciate when there's a little bit of humor thrown in, especially if like a story gets real dark and then there's like some humor that kind of brings you out of that darkness a little bit. But fun stories that have good humor.
Yeah.
Always a good time.
And yeah, with some of my other stuff, I lean more towards it's funny. Writing comedy is hard. Like writing an actually good joke that makes you laugh. Sometimes something makes you laugh just because it makes you laugh. But writing something that makes everybody laugh, just not for whatever idiosyncratic reason, like you think it's funny, that takes work. Which is, we'll see if anyone laughs at any part of this. I hope they do.
I always am like, when I come up with something that I'm like, I think's funny, I'm like, no one's gonna laugh at this. It's
it's really esoteric fun, but like no one's.
It's like the dad joke pun humor that I'm like, yeah, this is just me that thinks this is funny.
Right. Yeah.
Where can people follow you and follow along with your writing journey?
So I am on Twitter at Ari Gross. You can go to my website, www.arigross.ca. It's ARIGROSS.ca. If at the very top of the website, I've got a sign up for my mailing list sort of thing. I strongly encourage people to do that because that's how I'll keep in touch with people, let them know what I'm working on. I will not spam people with a million things that they do not want. Not because that's the good thing to do, but because I don't want to write a million emails. Like, I don't want to write any more emails than absolutely necessary. Sometimes you got to tell people what's happening, but like, I'm not going to be the guy, like, I'm not doing a Substack, where like every week, I'm got like the Tynion or like Scott Snyder or Chip Starsky just like dump of stuff. Like, that's amazing that someone could do it. That's not me, like someone once asked me a while ago, like, do you think you're a writer or storyteller? And I'm like, I say storyteller just because like writing's hard. Like even writing emails is like, it's work, man.
I created a Substack for the channel just to like send out occasional updates of like, hey, these things are coming out or these things happened. I'm bad at like actually remembering to send things out through that. So it's very occasional that things come out. So I try to respect that that same thing there. It's like, I'm not going to bug you all the time.
Yeah, especially if you're like you're into comics, you probably have like a few subscriptions of people's stuff anyway. You get more than you could read.
Yeah.
Like I'm not flooding anybody, but that is how I will probably, like, if you read my stuff and you like it and you think it's interesting and you think I'm an interesting guy to follow, sign up for the mailing list. You'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, just unsubscribe. It's easy enough.
Right there.
Wrong.
Take you over there. And right there, take you over to the Kickstarter. And I think I have your Twitter linked in the description down here.
Excellent.
Somewhere down there. If I can, I can't reach it. It's outside the video area.
People can find
it. If I suddenly reached down and like pulled out the description on camera, that would be some magic stuff that I can't do.
Yeah. That's the next level.
Yeah. we'll get some graphics engineers in here and they'll do it for us.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, talking about Awakening. I'm looking forward to seeing it fund. Anyone watching now or later, go click the link, go check it out, back it. It's actually, for sometimes shipping between countries, Canada, US is a lot, but I think your price point on shipping is great.
I tend to place that promises to do it for fairly cheap, and I am crossing my fingers and hoping that turns out to be what the price is at, because that's what I'm charging. So
yeah,
we'll see how it's all an experiment. But I'm trying very hard to not run up prices unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone go check it out. Back it if you love Star Trek or just sci-fi in general. Be a great time. Thanks to everyone who has been watching lives, catching us on the replay later. We'll see you next time.
See you around.